All right, so this episode that you're about to watch has a little bit of an audio problem. You can definitely hear it well, but there's a lot of, room echo to it, and I just wanted to apologize for that before you watch the episode. I still think the episode is great. Let me know what you think down below. And it was an audio mechanical error. You'll see me talking into the microphone, but for some reason it just didn't work. Anyway. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Hello. Broadcasting from a different place, but same great show. This is Acquisitional Wealth Podcast, and I am so glad you are here with me today. Before we get started, hop on over to Facebook, join our Acquisitional Wealth Facebook page. Wonderful free content over there. A lot of good stuff to be made aware of, and we also put some updates as to the live events we have and that sort of thing. So Acquisitional Wealth Facebook page, go over there, join that. Hit like, subscribe, share on this as well. And of course, if this is your first time here, go back to episode 1, start there. That's really the base foundation of the entire topic, and because you're going to get some foundational insights there that you're not going to get anywhere else, especially concerning this topic. So there you go. All right, so what do I want to talk about today? Today I want to address owner financing, seller financing. It is a very common subject when it comes to buying and selling companies. Matter of fact, I would say most deals, especially under 20 million, 30 million, most deals are going to have an element of owner financing to them. And what is it before we talk about the variables and how to address it? So let's say, just so the math is easy, you're going to buy $1 million business. And let's say the bank is requiring 10% down. And you only have 8%. So you have $80,000. And you still need to come up with the extra 20. Where do we get it? Well, if the owner, let's say Jan owns the bakery. If the owner says, you know what, I'll retain ownership of 20%, I'll finance 20% and use that equity for your down payment. Now you have your entire 10% down payment. Wait a second, so you mean I don't always need the entire 10%? No. So she's going to finance that. Does that make sense? And it could be bigger than that. Let's say you have, let's say you have 15% down, but the deal's kind of wonky, right? The numbers don't add up, or you believe in the growth more than the bank does, or whatever. And the bank's not willing to loan you the entire amount that you want to complete the transaction, even though you might have 15% down. Owner finance can still come in. And the owner can say, you know what, I'll finance another 10%. Now you have 25% down, and the bank says, okay, cool, we'll do this deal. So it's extremely common. It's a very valuable tool, but it comes in a lot of different forms, variations, and requirements, right? So sometimes it's called a holdback. There's lots of different names these things can take. Sometimes it's called a holdback. Sometimes there's a mandatory delay on getting it. So let's say, we'll use pens as example. Let's say Bob is buying Jan's business, and Jan agrees to owner finance 10% or $100,000 of it, okay? Well, the SBA is probably going to be the underwriter for this loan, and the SBA is going to say, well, okay, that's cool. We love this, which they do. It makes for, in their opinion, a more secure transfer of ownership and all that sort of stuff. But they say, okay, Jan, that satisfies the deal, so we'll do the deal. However, you cannot start getting paid on your $100,000 until Bob pays us our $900,000. So how long does that take? Well, typically 10 years. So as the buyer doing an owner finance deal, especially if there's SBA financing involved, that owner or the seller might not get their other amount for 10 years. Well, then if you take that 100 grand, are you going to owe it to them all in the 10th year anniversary, or are they going to take it over 10 years or 5 years too? So it might be 15 years before they see all the money. So there are definitely some things to contemplate when it comes to how do you use seller or owner financing in the deal. The positive argument to that is that they can get the higher price that they really wanted. They just have to wait in order to get it. Now, some people who go read books online or something, and they'll say, well, what if I just do an earnout? Well, what's an earnout? An earnout is kind of similar. It's not exactly the same thing because we're not counting it as equity. But an earnout is similar. An earnout is like saying, Jan thinks her bakery is worth $1 million too. Bob, who's buying it, thinks it's only worth $1 million. So Bob says, tell you what, I'll pay you the extra $200,000 if asterisk, the business performs as well as it has for you for the next 24 months or whatever. Lots of different ways to define an earnout. So if Jan's okay with that, then Jan can get that higher price that she really wanted, but it's going to take her a minute to do it. And if there's no SBA financing involved, or if the financer is okay with implementing that right from the get-go, that could see that extra money go into Jan's pocket sooner. So it allows you to offer a higher price, satisfy the seller, lower or at least what you were willing to put out of your pocket, satisfy you. Everybody's happy. And again, lots of different ways this can take shape too. You could do ongoing royalties. You could do, a predefined consulting agreement. Sometimes that's a great way to make up some of that gap too. Back to Jan and Bob, let's say the SBA will only go to 100 grand or $1 million. Bob has his $100,000 down, but Jan really wants 1.1. How do we get around this? Well, the deal is for $1 million. However, Bob agrees to hire Jan as a consultant for 12 months at $100,000. Now Jan gets her 1.1, and it's up to them really how they enforce that agreement. You do want to put forth goodwill effort. If he's going to hire Jan to be a consultant, one, it benefits him to have Jan as the consultant because she's run the business for X amount of years. Two, it benefits Jan because it allows her legacy a better chance of succeeding. So both parties would want to really do it. But it's not like, there's somebody looking over your shoulder saying, well, is Jan here 4 days a week, 8 hours a day? That's not how it works. So it's a great way to kind of also make up for that missing amount. Another thing you could do is a likeness agreement. Sometimes, the reason I say that is sometimes lenders get really sticky and they don't want the seller to be around very long. And I know that sounds weird, but it's absolutely true, because typically, especially on a small business, when an owner stays beyond a 6 month to a year max, it tends to cause problems. It just really does. And that's why a lot of people who sell their business to private equity firms end up regretting that decision, because there's all these promises like, oh, we'll keep you on as a CEO or COO or whatever. Usually they end up ash canning you. They'll get you in, get you excited, yay, and well, we could do a whole show on it. Anyway, suffice it to say, most of the time, financiers don't want the previous owner there over a year, and the simple reason is that it causes problems for the new owner. Let's say I owned a business for 40 years and you're my employee. And then one day, Rashad buys my business and he starts making changes. And you don't like the changes. Who are you going to go to? Me or Rashad? Me. Naturally me. You're going to come to me and go, well, Josh, it was better when you did it. Or, well, Josh, I don't think you should have. Or, well, Josh, can you talk to Rashad? Or, well, right? And it just creates this terrible relationship inside the business. So because of that, a lot of lenders don't want to see an agreement where the seller sticks around in the business longer than a year max. So if you're going to, not hide, that's the wrong word. If you're going to supplement an additional price with some sort of consulting agreement, but you know it's going to take longer than a year or two to do it. Some other workarounds would be something like a likeness agreement. What's a likeness agreement? Well, a likeness agreement is, let's say you agree to use the founder's image in websites and commercials, and put a picture of them in the lobby and say, this is our founder. And you then enter into an agreement with that founder to pay them $10,000 a year for 100 years. There you go. And, part of that's the reason why you still see Colonel Sanders, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of different workarounds around this. But a couple keys here are, most banks are not going to think creatively enough to offer those suggestions. They're just not. It's really kind of shocking how bad banks tend to be at business. So don't count on a bank coming up with the idea. And these were just 3 or 4. There's literally hundreds of ways to skin this cat. But don't expect them to do it. The seller is probably not going to come up with a great solution for a few different reasons. One, default is, hey, I want my money and I want it now, right? I mean, look at how hard it is for private equity firms to talk the seller into taking stock in the fund, right? It's even harder to say, well, what if we allow you to use the building, blah, 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 blah. So don't expect the seller to do it for that reason. And most business owners are not business people. They're just not. They tend to, hey, I own a business. I know how to do whatever it is this business charges for its service or product. But as far as strategic business mind, usually not there. And no fault to them. That's just not how life turned out for them. So they're not going to come up with it, which means it's going to come down to either you, and if you have a wonderfully creative business mind, awesome, or your quality broker. And this is another reason why I talk about you really, really, really have to have a quality broker. Bad brokers are not going to be a benefit in this sort of scenario. Why? First reason, most business brokers have terrible contracts, and they just want that sale event for as much cash as possible because that's how their contract is written, and they want money, honey. 2, most of them are not very good business people either, and they don't have that creative sort of flow and juice to do it. So somebody on your team, whether it's you or your broker, has to have that business creative mind. And the number one, and I'm dead serious, the number one most common concern that I've gotten over the past almost 28 years of doing this is, Josh, I don't know how to think creatively. I don't know how to think like you. Yeah. A lot of people don't. And there's some ways we can teach that, but it's going to take a long time. I have people on my staff, after 3 years of being with me, they're starting to get it. So I can't help with everybody's deal. So that wasn't a pitch. I'm just saying that's something that's a real concern. And if you're not creative in business, it costs you millions. It really costs you millions of dollars if you don't take the time, whether now, before you get into this, or have a great broker, get into business, and then develop it. That'd be the better way to do it. And then spend the next few years developing your business skill set and your business creativity. But at some point, you have to. You just have to. Now, when it comes to lenders, most people watching this, I would assume, are somewhere, under $7 million in acquisition. So you're going to be dealing mostly with the SBA. This is where this whole topic gets a little tricky. The SBA loves to do that default secured position. They call it 10 years after the deal is done. That can throw a wrench into a lot of negotiations. A lot. Because of that, you're going to want to be careful as to what you present to your banking representative, the loan originator, if they convey to the SBA, or at least their bank's underwriting team, that there is a creative solution to owner financing, it can delay the approval process until the bank thinks they need to approve whatever sort of additional agreement you've come up with. The best way to do it, first, never trust your loan originator. Never trust your loan originator. Even if they're trustworthy, then, become friends with them after the deal's done. But the loan originator is typically going to be the person who says, well, I'm on your side. I'm here for you. I'm going to make, whatever we can work for you. That's like massive, massive red flags. Last 30 or 40 people I've talked to who've either with me have walked through the process or walked through it with a different broker or something, have all had similar experiences. The more that loan originator seems like they're on your team, the worse they are, the more toxic they tend to be for the deal. You want your loan originator to be very dull, very mundane. Here's the information, convey it to the people who actually matter in this process. And more often than not, keeping creative solutions out of the conversation at that point will serve you greatly moving forward. It really will. And I know, when I say that, somebody's going to complain, well, I'm not saying there's not exceptions to the rule. I'm not. But, the internet, this could go anywhere on the planet within an hour and it could live in perpetuity. So in a way to cover my bases, I just want to make sure that most people are aware you should not be trusting your loan originator. We've even had deals, no joke. I was trying to save this couple a few $100,000. The loan originator, and I won't say for which bank, but the loan originator went behind my back, started talking to this couple about, Josh is just acting as your broker. And, brokers, they're not looking out for your best interest. They're typically looking out for their own. So why would you want to, trust him? You should trust me. I'm the one in this relationship fighting for your loan approval. And the couple that I was dealing with, I kind of prep all my clients. These are key phrases you have to be aware of. These are actions you have to be aware of, especially with dealing with banks and lawyers. So they kind of came to me with it. And what was happening is the loan originator gets paid how? The loan. So if I saved this couple a few $100,000, who gets hurt more? Me or the loan originator? The loan originator. So he's trying to get back to this place of a higher, get a higher loan, get a higher loan, get a higher loan. Why? Because it puts more money in his pocket. And you might be watching this saying, well, as a broker, doesn't that work for you too? Don't you get a cut of the higher price? No, Kingsbridge is extremely, extremely unique. Obviously, there's a percentage of the sale price. Got it. But we can be creative in our sort of offset billing schedule. So let's say, just for example, let's say you wanted to buy a $5 million business and everybody knows it should be $5 million. And most brokers, 9 out of 9.5 brokers, are going to try to get that for $9 million. Why? Because everybody makes more money in commissions typically. Kingsbridge would say, well, what do you want to do? Well, I think it's worth $7 million. So you want me to knock $2 million off and go negotiate for you? Yeah, see what you can do. Okay, cool. So we can work an agreement that says, okay, tell you what, if I knock $200,000 off, I get $50,000 bonus or something. Way cheaper than the $200,000 or whatever would be on commission, right? So that's awesome for you. Still something in there for us. I go knock the $200,000 off. You're happy as a lark. You're going to buy more businesses with me. Yay. The loan originator, though, he's the one that's going to lose. He's the one that's going to lose. And in my case, it doesn't even have to be, $50,000 bonus. It could be, tell you what, I want whatever I'm saving you, $2 million. Okay, I want 10% equity in the company up to X value. Oh, okay, cool. Great. Then I'm going to go knock off $2 million for you. So there's a lot of creative things that Kingsbridge can do that other people just can't do. And certainly it cannot be done by the loan originators. They are loan originators. They get paid on loans. So their entire thing, not only get paid on a loan, but they're based in their career on how much loan value they've issued. And I'm dead serious. If you go to these industry trade shows, you're never going to see a loan company, or especially the individual, like, Bob or the VP of loans, brag about, well, we've issued 400 loans below what the asking prices were. No, they're never going to brag about that. They're most likely never even going to brag about the number of loans they've done. You know what they're going to brag about? The amount of loans they've done. And some of these idiots put it right on their email signatures. Bob, and I've issued $500 million in loans. Well, unless you make money on a commission on the loan, that's an irrelevant number. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything. What I would want to know, Bob, is how many loans have you gotten through? What percentage of applications got through? And I would much rather see an email signature that says 400 loans issued, 87% approval of all the loans submitted. That is a much more impressive number than the gross amount of cash that you've lent out. Way, way, way more. Does that make sense? So anyway, that was this kind of topic. I wanted to bring it up because at this point in the process, people usually get to that, idea of, how do I finance the thing? What is owner financing, seller financing? What is this standby? The standby loan is where they have to wait the 10 years in order to get there. And maybe in another episode, we'll talk about clawbacks, because that's kind of the reverse of what we're talking about here. But I hope that helps. I hope you enjoyed this quick little, actually it wasn't that quick. It was a good episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, join us for a Business of Life event. We host most of them for free. It's just to get this information out there. We don't do a coaching program or anything. Join us for one of those. Hit like, subscribe, hit the bell, share. If you're listening to this on iTunes or iHeart or whatever, subscribe there as well. And until next time, have fun. Have fun with